Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope you all recall last year's bill. It was House Bill 366, and now it's law, thanks to your good efforts. It was the Fetal Heartbeat Preborn Child Protection Act, and that passed. And if you recall, it would say that an abortion cannot be permitted past the detection of a fetal heartbeat. We were probably the 13th state in the nation to pass such a bill. To avoid legal issues here, that bill had a trigger that would then require another state's district court to allow such a bill to go forward, and then ours would come into effect. Less than a month after we passed and was signed House Bill 366, Texas also passed a fetal heartbeat bill. They did a very clever thing. They allowed for a civil cause of action, meaning that you can be sued in civil court if someone performs an illegal abortion post-heartbeat. Typically, these things go to court, and because the state is the enforcer, we are often enjoined from enforcing the law. Lost on the books, perhaps, but we may be enjoined if we run a pain-capable bill or a procedure bill or other kinds of bills we've run in the past that want to do good, I should say. Texas's clever private cause of action did good. It stopped physical abortions, mechanical abortions in their tracks. And the ensuing months, babies have been saved. 9,000 babies is the current estimates of September when this went into full effect. We did things a little differently. In Idaho, we allow family members to have standing, parents, grandparents, siblings, aunts, and uncles, as opposed to Texas, which had a very broad standing capacity. We thought that would hold up better to any challenges. If you follow this legislation at all, you'll note that it was challenged in lower courts in Texas, and it went always to the Supreme Court, not yet for an evaluation on its merits, but it was sent back then to the prior courts, and to this day, abortions are still being stopped in Texas. It came up in committee that this bill provides exceptions for rape and incest. It does not. There are current statutes already on the book that discuss rape and incest. This discusses the point that such a monster cannot sue. It excludes them from the pool of standards. And with that, body, I would like to give a few moments to my co-sponsor, the good lady from District 33, to finish the opening.
Does the lady yield?
Mr. Speaker, the lady yields.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you very much, friends. I appreciate this opportunity that my good colleague from District 21 has presented me, because as he has presented some of the technical aspects, I thought maybe I could just touch upon some of the things that really resonate with me. You know, when I think in 1973, that's almost 50 years ago, January 22nd, 1973. Since that time, 49 years, 62 million babies have been aborted. As we're dealing in this age of ARPA money and figures, that I get lost in what does that really mean. And so I had to sit down and I started going through the computer and looking up and trying to put into context, what does 62 million actually mean? So I looked up the state of New York. How many people live in New York? Only 20 million. How many people live in Texas? Only 30 million. In Canada, 38 million. California, 40 million. We're not even at 62 million. The closest I got that I looked up was England. 56 million people. 56, that many babies that have been aborted could fit inside of England's population right now and more. I had to look at it that way because I could not comprehend what that number actually meant.
Alternate math.
This legislation that passed in Texas is actually working. It's, as the good gentleman said, it's withstood 3 challenges. No doubt, and obviously in the process, more is coming. Abortion is not a constitutional right. This is something that we created, and that the Supreme Court in 1973 did something that was never allowed in the first place by creating law. I had mentioned before at the beginning of this session that I was honored on December 1st to be able to attend basically a celebration in Washington, D.C., as we had gone through the state of Mississippi versus Jackson State Health, and the energy, the hope that was in that huge room, thinking that in a few months that the Supreme Court may actually overturn Roe Wade, Casey, and send it back to the states. In the meantime, I hope that happens too, but in the meantime, we can actually do something that's working. My experience in Washington, D.C. was one of hope. This right now is one of actuality, and I do hope that you will give it your green light. Thank you.
You've heard the motion. Is there further debate? The gentleman from 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would either bill sponsor rise for a question? Actually, for a few questions.
Gentleman from 21 yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman from 21. Reading through here, I understand that someone who has committed a rape would not be able to sue if an abortion were to take place. Would a family member of said rapist be able to sue? Would they have standing?
Gentleman from 21.
Thank you. If it is the parents, siblings, aunts and uncles, grandparents, then yes.
Follow up?
Gentleman from 26. Good gentleman from 21 yield again.
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman from 21. Same question then for incest as well?
Gentleman 21.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One last question.
Gentleman yields for further question.
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you. On the flyer that you just passed out, it says that it would require doctors who perform abortions to follow standard medical practice to determine if a fetal heartbeat is present. What exactly is standard medical practice?
Gentleman from 21.
Thank you. Not being a doctor, I could not tell you the answer to that, but it would be standard medical practice for detecting a heartbeat. It's done all the time with preborn babies, as we're all aware.
6 weeks.
Gentleman 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further debate? Hearing none. Hearing no negative debate. Come on.
Mr. Speaker,
Good lady from 19.
you can hardly expect that was the end of this debate.
Well, I just haven't seen your face for months, so I didn't recognize you.
Here I am.
Good
Here I
lady
am.
has the floor.
Thank you. May I ask one question? Would the good sponsor yield for one question, please?
Gentleman from 19 yields a question. Gentleman
yes,
from 19 yield for question.
21?
I'm sorry, 21. I'm sorry.
Yes.
From Representative 25 said.
Yes,
This lady
thank
from
you.
19 would like to ask you a question, good gentleman.
Thank you, good gentleman. Maybe a follow-up to the question before. So if I am raped and choose to have an abortion and my rapist has 10 siblings, is there anything to preclude all of them and their spouses from bringing a lawsuit for $20,000 each?
Gentleman from 21.
I'm not sure the spouses are included in that list, but no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. To debate the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you. I think their spouses would be included because they would be aunts and uncles are included. The vigilante aspect of this bill is absurd, as I think this has been pointed out. This bill is not clever. It's absurd. Its impacts are cruel, and it is blatantly unconstitutional, as you can see in the AG opinion that's been disseminated. We are at a crisis point for reproductive rights in this country, and this legislation is part of the plan to completely take away nearly all access to abortion care, really for any reason in Idaho. No one's most intimate medical decisions should be controlled by us. I don't think the 105 Idaho legislators need to be in the exam room between a pregnant person and the doctor, and that's exactly what this bill does. First, this bill mandates transvaginal ultrasounds when they are not medically necessary. That is the only way you can detect what's being called a fetal heartbeat. It's simply cardiac activity. We are forcing transvaginal ultrasounds and really eroding the trust between a provider and a patient, making them do something that's not medically necessary simply because we wanted to put this in statute. Second, this blatant attack on these healthcare rights is not popular. As recently as 2019, a poll found that 65% of voters believe it is important that women have access to all reproductive healthcare options. This bill is so extreme and so out of line with what mainstream Idahoans want. If this bill passes, people who are unable to leave the state would be forced to carry pregnancies against their will, and while those who do have resources will be able to get across the state border and get this care. And is that right? Is that fair that if you are low-income Idahoan, you can't get the same health care that someone who's higher income can? This is going to impact low-income people. It's going to impact people of color who are less likely to have wealth or wealthy social networks who could lend them cash so that they can travel and get this care. This kind of sue thy family provision in this bill makes your aunts and uncles, parents, into potential enemies, spying on you to see what you're doing. If I have an abortion, it is no business of my brother-in-law, his wife, or anyone else in my extended family. This bill purports to have exemptions for rape and incest, but those exemptions are not meaningful. If a survivor of rape or incest seeks abortion care, they will have to produce a police report. We know there are all kinds of problems with that. First, it can take a lot of time before law enforcement can actually produce a report like that. We know rape and incest especially is severely underreported, and to put that kind of requirement on people just makes no sense. It's cruel, and it adds an additional trauma to survivors of that kind of sexual violence. And notably, if you are a minor in this bill, you're probably very unlikely to have made a report to the police. Only a report made by your parent or guardian suffices as a police report that you can take to the doctor so that you can have your abortion. When you think about, what if in cases of incest, if it's the father who committed this rape of a child and impregnated her, he's probably not going to be taking her down to the police department to file that report. This just shuts off any sort of opportunity for children in that heartbreaking situation to end an unwanted pregnancy. This tool gives abusers a way to control their intimate partners. They can have the threat of turning, their partner in for seeking an abortion, and really limits what someone in an abusive situation can do. You might be able to get to an appointment discreetly if you're in an abusive situation when it's just going across town. If you have to drive 250 miles to get to a border, that's much harder to hide from an abusive partner. This is dangerous for people. This bill doesn't include any privacy protections. So when the brother of my rapist wants to sue me, I can then be called to court as a witness and have all of this personal information, my personal business, out there for the world to know. This legislation is bad for public health. Experts predict that a total abortion ban would lead to a 21% increase in the number of pregnancy-related deaths, and that's even higher for Black women. The impact of not getting wanted abortion care can be devastating for so many reasons, and they all depend on the circumstances. People who are forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term are 4 times likelier to suffer poverty, as well as anxiety and loss of self-esteem after being denied wanted abortion care. This is especially concerning this is also concerning when parents get the news that their fetus is unlikely to survive to full termination or outside the womb. There is nothing in this legislation that protects access to abortion care in those heartbreaking cases, thus forcing a pregnant person to bring a non-viable pregnancy to term, prolonging just the loss and the grieving and the trauma. This bill will clearly have a chilling effect on doctors and health centers that provide a variety of reproductive health care and puts at risk all kinds of things that those centers and community health centers provide. The reason someone seeks abortion are deeply personal. As I said, these need to remain between a patient and a doctor. A victim of rape or incest should never be forced to bear a child, and this legislation acknowledges that. The problem is that the exception is so cumbersome that it renders itself useless, but we should ask ourselves, if an abortion is acceptable in those circumstances, why can't we trust patients to make those decisions in other cases for their deeply personal reasons? 6 in 10 women who have abortions are already mothers, and half of them have 2 or more children. And one of the top reasons that women seek abortion care is so that they can be better parents to the children they already have. Who are we to get in the way of that? Who are we to get in the way no matter what the reason? I have dear, dear friends I love, respect, and admire who had abortions and experienced great relief at not being forced into carrying a pregnancy to term. And about 1 in 4 American women over the course of their lives will get an abortion. So if you think you don't know someone who had an abortion, that's probably not true. This is my 3rd legislative session, so therefore it's my 3rd time hearing an abortion bill. This is a kind of an annual tradition. And I've told the story of why this is so personal to me twice now. I'll touch on it just lightly again. It's about my great-grandmother who was widowed with 3 kids and got remarried to a man who turned out to be abusive. And when she became pregnant with his child, she tried to induce an abortion and she died. This was the kind of the lore, the family legend that got passed down long after she died. My dad didn't know until he was an adult. And I don't think we even found out until my grandmother, who was orphaned, died. But I started doing some research on ancestry websites this summer, and I dug up her death certificate, which is before you. You can see the cause of death. It's peritonitis. That means an infection of the abdomen. A lot has changed in the 100 years that have passed since my great-grandmother died because she couldn't get access to a safe abortion. But people still find themselves in very similar desperate situations where there's intimate partner violence, financial situations, and all kinds of reasons on which we should not place judgment that people seek abortion care. Who are we to judge them, and why would we make that impossible? Please vote no.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, would the gentleman from 21 care to close?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Not much more to add, really. Be aware that the doctor is being sued, not the mom. The mom may be one of the plaintiffs. Blatantly unconstitutional. The Texas bill has already made 2 visits to the Supreme Court. We heard in testimony in the committee, we heard testimony here today that this will end many abortions in Idaho. So I appreciate that testimony. Let's save some babies. Thank you.
Debate is closed. Question is, shall Senate Bill 1309 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machines, and the members will cast their votes.
Mr. Speaker,
Let's clear the chamber. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their votes? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. 51 ayes. Clerk will report the pairs.
Demordant votes aye, Chu votes nay, Matthias votes nay, Moyle votes aye.
51 ayes, 14 nays, 5 absent excused. Majority having voted in favor of Senate Bill 1309, Senate Bill 1309 is passed the House.